Yeah, I'm all good, mate. How are you? You good?
Yeah, not bad, all good. I'm just gonna say, we don't have subtitles, so if anybody's not from South Wales, they're gonna struggle a bit today. But oh,
We'll do our best to speak like a normal person for him.
I know. So you good? Everything all right? Training going well?
Yeah, all good. Just getting back into the well, I'm never not training anyway, but just sort of upping it a little bit now.
Yeah.
Just obviously hopefully have a bit of fight news this week. There've been a couple of chops and changes and stuff like that, but fingers crossed we'll have some definite stuff locked down this week. So I'm just up in the training a little bit, really, just getting my body back used to the sort of 4 sessions a day, heavy impact stuff, to make sure I'm ready for the fight.
Oh, awesome. But I was looking through, I think it was your Instagram. I was looking through yesterday, and I saw a great. No, it was Twitter. I saw a great video. It was you walking out to the Cardiff ice rink.
Yeah.
Supersonic was blasting. Was that a career highlight for you? Do you think that particular night?
Definitely at the time, obviously, it was a massive fight. At the time, it was Cage Warriors 100, which was their biggest show at the time. I know they've had a couple of
Yeah.
blockbuster ones since, but at the time, it was obviously like the landmark show, and it was pretty much built around me. Me and Mike Eckendale was main event, so it was two undefeated guys, the two best bantamweights in Europe at the time. And it was just sort of someone's always got to go sort of thing, and it was a lot of, not so much from Mike, but I think sort of a lot of the UK MMA media seemed to write me off for some reason. The only real ones that they sort of predicted I would win was obviously my teammates and my coaches and the Welsh sort of journalists, like, in all fairness, people like Lewis Smith and Jason Batty, them sort of guys. But everyone else sort of, I think they thought I was a bit of a lamb to the slaughter for some reason. So to go out there, obviously main event in front of a Welsh crowd as well, and then beat him at his own game, dominate him for the world title was definitely one I won't forget in an arena. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, every fight though I have seen, it seems to get bigger and bigger every time. I know, like with the UFC now, although I'm not fighting in front of like the big Welsh crowd and I'm not the main event, it's obviously a step up in
Yeah.
competition, step up in production. The last fight was in Abu Dhabi and stuff like that. So it just seems to get bigger every time. I mean, providing I keep winning, I imagine that's the way it's going to go. But it's one of the, I mean, when people ask me like, what's your favorite fighting moment? It's hard to just narrow one down because I've got so many that are, partially my favorite moment, but for different reasons to the others. So,
Yeah.
but that was definitely a big one.
So from Abertillery to Abu Dhabi then.
That's it. Yeah. From the valleys to the desert.
I saw you tagged Liam in the post. Did he get back to you, or was he too busy? Do you think?
He's too busy for me, mate. He's too busy. Me and the boys have hounded him on Twitter a couple of times, but we'll have him one day. We'll sucker him. He did like something on my Instagram, but you just don't know whether it's him running his page or not. So,
Yeah.
but that's about as close as an interaction as me and the boys have got with him at the minute. But I'm sure one day we'll sucker him in for a reply or a retweet or something like that.
Definitely. But what do you like pre-nerves, Jack? Do you get off on it? Are you nervous? What are you like backstage? Do you enjoy the buzz? What is it like for you?
To be honest, like my coaches will sort of back me up on this one. I'm not a very nervous person when it comes to fighting. Like, if you ask me to go and speak to a room full of people about something, or if you ask me to go and chat to someone I didn't know, I'm probably more nervous for that. I'm quite I used to have quite bad social anxiety, I suppose, as a kid. Didn't want to meet new people and stuff like that. But as far as fighting goes, I mean, I don't feel the nerves at all. I think it's probably because my old man have had me around it even from a young age. So, at 12, 13, even when I wasn't fighting, I was out the back watching the boys have their hands wrapped and, warm up and walk out. I've walked out with my old man when he fought a couple of times, and it's just something I've always been around. So I'm used to that sort of atmosphere and that sort of intimidating setting. And obviously you get your adrenaline buzz and your butterflies a little bit before you're about to walk out. But, I'm never sort of, I mean, I know boys who are out the back and they're scared, and shitting themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that. You hear people like, GSP's the best fighter of all time, and Cowboy Cerrone and them two
Yeah.
openly said, before they walk out, they're petrified. But I just don't seem to have that feeling. I sort of look forward to it. To me, like the hard part is the training and the weight cut and the fight. I mean, once I weighed in, I'm just happy as Larry and looking forward to getting in there now and doing the thing we've trained for. Because I mean, a lot of people probably suffer with the nerves because, like, oh, what if I lose? And people say, but that doesn't really factor into it with me. I mean, the way I look at it is, I'm part of a small percentage of people fighting in the UFC. There's probably less than 1%, less than 1% of people who walk the planet of the earth are going to ever fight on the biggest stage of it all. So if I pick up a loss or if I get knocked out or choked out, I just think, well, the only person I really got an answer to is myself and my coaches. And I know, they would never be, if I had a crap performance, they may be a bit disappointed, but they would never sort of, bark me for a loss, if that makes sense, just because I've lost. So I always put the work in training and in the build up to the fight. So I know going in there, I've done everything I can. So from that point on, I'm not a religious loony, but it's sort of what will be, and God's plan sort of thing, as they say. I ain't a Christian or nothing like that. But what will be when you go in there, it's all down to who's the better man on the night then. But as long as I prepare properly before and don't leave nothing up to chance in the build up, I don't ever tend to go out there, with any doubts. And if I eventually do pick up a loss, which can happen in this sport, then, it is what it is. I haven't got an answer to no one. And as long as I have done myself proud and my team proud, it doesn't matter to me really what everyone else thinks. My family will still love me and my friends will still like me. Fingers crossed anyway. I can't imagine they'd abandon me after a loss. So, I don't suffer too badly from the nerves. But like I said, that's not to say that if you do suffer from nerves, you're any less of a fighter or you're weaker than I am mentally. It's just people deal with it in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, mate. I mean, speaking of UFC, obviously based in America, have you got any plans, Jack, to maybe go to the US? I know Joe Duffy went to Canada, didn't he? Is that maybe something on the horizon for you, or are you going to try and stay in Wales?
Well, to be honest, I've trained. I did a month out in Albuquerque at the Jackson Wink Academy. So I don't know if you know who they are, but they're one of the John Jones's gym is the best way, the best way people will know them. And they're one of the biggest gyms in the world. And me and Jack Marshman did a month out there. He had a fight coming up. And he did a bit of a training camp over there. So I went for the month just to experience it. And it was a great experience. But to be honest, what I found is the only difference at the time in America was obviously the facility, the size of the facility, and not so much the quality of training and coaching, just the quantity. Over there, I suppose when we trained over there, you had probably 80 guys on the mat, all MMA fighters. Whereas at the time up in my small gym in Blaenau, you probably had 20. But times are changing a little bit now. Obviously, the sport's blown up the last couple of years in the UK and in Wales. And the gym we've got now is arguably just as good as the gym they've got, in my opinion. When I haven't been at both, the facility in itself is just as good. And I don't think that the British boys need to so much go out there to train anymore, because what I think happens a lot of the time is that the boys go to these big American gyms and they tend to just be sort of a body for the bigger names, like for your John Jones and your GSP and stuff like that. Whereas over here, we're all homegrown talent and we've all come up in the same gyms. And I think the coaches are obviously, whereas over there, like John Jones is their guy. So I suppose over here, people like me and Brett and Marshman will be the top boys in our gym, and the coaches want to give a lot of their time to us. Whereas over there, the coaches want to give their time to sort of the big names. And if you happen to be in sparring one of them, you may get a bit of attention that way. So I would love to go out there. I'm not saying I wouldn't go out there and train and use like the UFC PI and stuff like that.
But keep Wales as the base, maybe, is it?
Yeah, as far as like fight prep goes and training for fights, I think I'll always do my camps out of obviously Show MMA and obviously training with Gary and him and stuff like that. I mean, there may come a time in the future where you never know what could happen. I may have to go out there and do a training camp, but for as long as I can see it, I can't see me doing a fight camp anywhere other than Wales at the minute.
Definitely. Speaking of Gary, obviously we know Gary quite well. Is it obviously Gary? Is it just the stand-up sort of side, the boxing side? Have you got like other coaches as well, or is it obviously Gary does the boxing? Have you got other coaches for the other aspects of MMA?
Yeah, I've got a few coaches. Obviously my head coach is my father,
Yeah.
Richard Shaw. And he just sort of looks over. He's obviously like the jiu-jitsu coach, but he's sort of the MMA coach then, and just oversees the whole camp really. Make sure everything's in check. Sort of helps organise my training a little bit for me. We've got Gary Lockett then does my boxing. We've got Carl Parker, who is like my wrestling coach, but also my MMA coach as well. So he's sort of, Carl's sort of like my old man's, the last 3 years, he's sort of become my dad's right-hand man, like as far as MMA goes, he's up there and has just as much influence and just as much say as my old man. And he's been a big asset in the gym, but his wrestling's through the roof for a guy who's trained in a shed in Wales for the most part of his life. He's brought all of the boys at the gym. Their wrestling's gone through the roof since working with Carl. I've also got Crew Heem then, my Thai boxing coach, who's he was originally a head Thai coach at one of the top gyms in Thailand, aka Thailand. He's living over in Wales now, so I'm fortunate to be working with him once or twice a week as well. And I got my S&C coach then, Greg Carlo, who just takes control of my sort of training outside of martial arts and, like puts a plan in. I mean, it's not just solely, he doesn't just say do this. It's more like, right, so what are we doing this morning now? Are you running? Are you biking? And he will base his S&C training then around that. And just give me a little bit of guidance on, if I'm a bit sore one day and I physically can't do my sprints or my hill sprints, he's like, right, let's just do this and we'll switch it up later in the week. So Greg sort of takes charge then on the stuff that's non-martial arts related as well.
Oh, okay. But I spoke to Gary and he said to ask you, he said, ask Jack, what happens when somebody asks for recommendations on Facebook?
Right, yeah. So we've got this thing. So speaking of, Greg Carlo's in on this one as well. So basically, anyone recommends anything on Facebook, I'll either get tagged. It depends who sees it first. Like, so if I think Gary tagged me and Greg in something yesterday. Now someone was looking for a crane license. They wanted to do their crane license. So Gary have tagged me and Greg in to say, "Oh, Jack Shaw is a man for that." So I've tagged Greg and I said, "Oh, I did mine 18 months ago. Like with Greg, he'll point you in the right direction." So anything and everything it could be like, I don't know, you're looking for a TV or you're looking for a box of tools or something like that. Or looking for a bike, looking for a car. Either Gary or Greg or vice versa. I'll be tagging them. We chuck a couple of recommendations out. And do you know Dan Gums as well?
No, I don't know Dan, no.
Dan Gums, he does all the gum shield stuff for the boxing and the MMA, like in Wales, and he's a madman himself, so he's in on it now as well. So if anyone
you're basically trying to flood somebody's inbox with a random questions.
Well, that's what I mean. What happened is I have met someone messaged me the other day like, "Oh, I mate, Greg tagged you in my status. Any chance you can come price up the job?" And I've looked, and he tagged me, and she's this man and his woman's looking for like a full rewire on their house. And Greg have tagged me in, so. That's a little inside joke we got. We brought Gary into it gently, but I think we're gonna have to up the tags on him now a little bit.
Definitely, but obviously we are primarily a boxing sort of outlet, and I wanted to ask you, boxers tend to we sort of touch on this a little bit. Boxers tend to worry a little bit about losing the O, but in UFC it doesn't really have that much weight. Do you think that's why maybe you're getting the best against the best because UFC fighters don't particularly care about losing?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors, to be honest. Like I'm a massive boxing fan, so I'm not slating boxing in the slightest. But I think, like you said, what you have with boxing is the O carries so much weight. So you get guys who they may have like 25 fights before they fight someone who's actually going to fight them back.
Yeah.
Whereas when I turned pro, I had one fight against a journeyman, which was only against a journeyman because my guy pulled out on the day of the weigh-in. So they had to get a journeyman in last minute. Every other fight I've had has been against someone with a similar record to mine. I've never fought someone, apart from the first guy, with a losing record. I've always fought someone who's had more wins than losses. And I think that's one of the reasons why, obviously, especially like the domestic scene, you don't see in boxing so much. Like there's top Welsh guys in the same weight. They don't necessarily fight each other. Whereas in MMA, it happens all the time. You get like you look at the Cage Warriors scene. You will have Welsh guys or guys from Bristol and stuff like that who are both these like young up and coming prospects, and they got no issue about chucking them in because I suppose in the hindsight it's like, well, whoever's going to be the best out of them, you know, is going to win the fight and go on to do what they're going to do anyway.
Let's find out quicker, sooner
yeah,
rather than later, basically.
Yeah, that's it. You know, I think it's like which it doesn't make too much sense really, because in MMA you sort of only have like, I had 12 amateur fights, which at the time was considered a lot, but a lot of people have like 6 or 7 amateur fights and turn pro. So you think if there was ever, you know, you think if it was that was the hang on, someone ringing me a minute.
Sorry, Scary, is it? You're tagging in something.
It's always my old man. He's always ringing me whenever I'm doing an interview. But yeah, you'd think like obviously only having 6 or 7 amateur fights, and maybe the MMA boys would want to build the experience a bit more pro. Whereas it doesn't go like that. As you know, like some, as you know yourself, some like the elite amateur boxers, they'll have maybe what, like 100 fights, 200 fights, and
when I think of Lomachenko, he had what, 397 before he turned over.
He's like a rare case, though, I mean, Lomachenko went straight into the deep end. Which, you know, I know boys who will have like maybe 50 to 100 amateur fights, but then like their first 10 fights will be against maybe journeyman, and that's not a knock on them. I know that's just how the boxing game works. But I think the reason a lot of the time where you don't get the best fighting the best in boxing is because of all the different organisations. Like,
and it's a massive, you know, like WBO, WBA, IBF, WBC.
It's only since like training with Gary that I've started to realise all the politics. Like obviously you've got all, like you said, the WBO, WBA, WBC. Then you've got like the
Matchroom against Frank Warren and all that.
In the UK it's Matchroom and Frank Warren, and then it's like Gary was telling me that it comes down to like purse bids and then it's like they got to sort of venue out and they got to sell this many tickets. Whereas in MMA, it's like if you're fighting for Cage Warriors, it's like right, this is who you're fighting. Sell as many tickets as we can and get on with it. Like, you know, it's not like, right, well, we're gonna speak to their manager and argue about where we should fight. It doesn't work like that. And I mean, in the UFC, you know, it's just the UFC. So if you're the top 2 guys in the world, you're going to be ranked 1 and 2 in the UFC. So you will fight. Whereas sometimes like with a boxing, you might be like the best in the world, like say the WBC, but then you may be like ranked 4 for like the WBA or something like that. So you're not necessarily going to get those. It's only at like the elite level of boxing, like you see now like Anthony Joshua and Fury and Wilder, stuff like that, where they're starting to just fight each other now, which is a shame because I think over the years boxing have missed out on a lot of like what could have been massive super fights because of politics. You've seen it with what happened with Mayweather a lot, and you know, you should have. I'm a massive Mayweather fanboy, but there's no denying he should have probably fought Pacquiao 5 years, 6 years before he did. So, but I mean, there's a lot more money in boxing, obviously, than MMA. So I can understand, you know, maybe if you can make 20 mil fighting someone you know you're going to whoop, or if you can make 30 mil fighting someone who might beat you, what option you're going to take. So
what's it like in UFC, Jack? I mean, another big thing in boxing is percentages and splits. Does that come into UFC? Do the 2 main guys, are they arguing, I want 60%, you want 40%?
I mean, I don't know how it works. Obviously, like the top level, I know people like McGregor and John Jones, Nate Diaz, people like that. I know obviously they are massive stars, so I imagine they will have a percentage of the pay-per-view. So if they fight on pay-per-view, you know, they'll take some sort of percentage. But as far as like purse goes, 9 times out of 10, there's the odd occasion where a fighter will just have this amount of money regardless, win or lose. But 9 times out of 10, it's like, right, you get paid this much to show up and this much win bonus. And then you sort of have like a 4 or 5 fight contract where obviously if you win, the money goes up. If you lose, the money stays the same. Like I said, I don't imagine people like McGregor and Nate Diaz, they're probably on sort of 1 fight basis when it comes to money. So a win or loss will determine, you know, they'll renegotiate for the next fight and they probably negotiate like their pay-per-view numbers. But as far as like you said, like in boxing, you have like the 60, you know, who's the A side and the B side. There's none of that in MMA because it's the same guy. You know, Dana White is promoting all the fights. He essentially is the promoter of both fighters. So, and he's never going to mix in with like Bellator and do like a cross promotion fight where they would argue like, right, well, we want to do this and we want to do that. It's just, it does seem to make life a bit easier. I think that's why you see so many fights, and I think that's why
it's blown up as much as it has UFC.
Yeah, that's why I mean, you know, obviously Conor McGregor put a lot of eyes onto the sport in the mainstream, and I think like I've got people now who've never trained a day in their life, and probably 5 years ago didn't know what MMA was. Like, and some of my friends, they're watching it now, and they know guys who are like sort of ranked like 10th and 15th, but they know who they are because they're like me now. They'll watch every single show, you know, because they essentially understand that. You've got a couple of undercard fights, but you get like the top 4 fights and there's really high-level boys fighting really high-level guys. So I think that's definitely why it's on the up. And I think there's probably a couple of things boxing could maybe learn from Dana White and the UFC and the way that he sort of promotes things. I know he pretty much, from what I've heard, of give Eddie Earn the sort of plan to do the fight camp thing. You know, I think he based that off how Dana White was doing like the Fight Island and the Apex. So you never know. Perhaps they'll do like a cross promotion thing. Perhaps Dana White. I know he was talking about doing Zuffa boxing, and maybe Eddie Earn will jump over and do an MMA show. You never know. They can work together a bit and sort of see if they can sort of get rid of some of the politics in boxing. That's what I'd like to see. Because like I said, I'm a big boxing fan myself. So whenever the big fights are on, I can't wait to watch them. But you do see a lot of the times you say, right, well, that guy's been put in here to take a loss, like, and there's no real way of arguing it, you know?
Yeah, but looking obviously at your division now, who would you say, apart from yourself, of course, who would you say is the best bantamweight? Do you think is PTN? Do you think is Sterling? Or would you say?
I mean, it's a tough one at the minute. The division's it's a tough division, but it's wide open at the top.
Yes, everybody's beating everybody at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, when Henry Cejudo was the champ, and people like obviously call him the king of cringe and stuff like that, but regardless of what you think about his character, he's an elite level athlete. You know, Olympic wrestling champion, Golden Glove boxer, 2-weight UFC champion, like knocked out TJ Dillashaw. You know, was pretty much out on his feet against Marlon Moraes, who was the top guy in the division, and then come back and finished him. So when he was around, in my opinion, it was Henry Cejudo, and there was no one. I don't think Peter Yan would have come close. I don't think Sterling would have come close. But at the minute, it's very wide open. Like, Peter Yan's the champ now, but obviously he had that fight with Aldo, and having watched it back, Aldo did really well. Like, it wasn't like, you know, he just dominated Aldo start to finish. For the first sort of 3 rounds, it was a competitive fight. So although Yan is the better man, Aldo's obviously up there. Sterling's on fire at the minute. I think, you know, for the first round, if Sterling can get hold of you with his grappling and his physical strength, he's going to cause problems. And then looking down the list, you've got some of the older guys like Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz, who are still in the mix. You've got like Pedro Munoz, Cody Stanman, and he just lost to Sterling, but before that, he was on a massive run. So as far as like the top 10 is concerned, it's wide open at the minute. And then you look outside of that, there's guys coming through like, you know, myself, Brett Johns is on the verge of a top 15 fight. Sean O'Malley just lost, but, you know, he's going to be top 15 within the next couple of fights. Chito Vera. So there's generally no easy fights. I mean, every fight you get in our division now is going to be a tough fight. So it's an exciting time, really, to be part of it. But as far as top dogs go, you know, is wide open at the minute. Any of those guys in the top 5 could potentially, within the next 2 years, like solidify themselves as the top. I mean, TJ Dillashaw, he got pinged for juicing, didn't he? So he's coming back now at the end of this year, which is a little bit wrong in my opinion. I think if you get pinged for blood doping, it should be a lifetime ban, because, you know, he's admitted. It's not like he's took a tainted supplement. He's admitted to what he done.
It's the same to me about, you know, when you look at big nailers, Povetkin's been done for this, been so many. Do you ever worry, you know, that when you go in the cage, you know, you're coming up against somebody like Dillashaw who's been, you know, done for peds? I
mean, it's a tough one because, you know, obviously we're part of the USADA testing, so USADA can turn up and test me now any time. So I'm fit. I'm a lot more confident now that people are not getting away with what they are. But I mean, there's the odd, like Dillashaw's got a lot of money, so I imagine, you know, if he's going to be smashing the juice into him, it's going to be a lot more scientifically done than some of the lower class guys. So the lower down guys are going to get caught, but like Dillashaw got caught after his fight with Cejudo, and then you've got people coming out saying he's been doing that all his career and never been caught.
You've got all those masking agents they take, and it's all crazy, isn't it?
To ban him for 2 years is when he's like openly admitted a blood dope and his piss take. You know, it's not like cycling or running or football. It's like we're openly, like, we can paint it up how we want with the martial.
Somebody could die, basically.
We're openly in there fighting, trying to hurt each other, trying to knock each other out, trying to submit each other. So that's dangerous enough as it is. Without someone going in there, you know, you should make. I mean, look, if in my opinion, it just shows you mentally weak. If you've got to juice up to compete in MMA or boxing, then you must be struggling mentally, because you should be confident enough in your. If you're as good as you think you are, then you should be confident enough just to go in there with your skill set and, you know, hard work and preparation, and be able to just get on with it and fight and let the best man win. If you've got to take steroids for that little advantage just to one up someone. I mean, I don't know how he can, even if he won, like, what would he think? Would he not think afterwards, well, would I have won if I didn't, if I didn't do all that? Like, that's how my head would work. So I don't know. I just think a 2-year ban is pathetic for someone to see. I mean, a tainted supplement I can understand because maybe he didn't know he was taking it, but blood doping is blood doping. It's not.
Yeah, no. And the thing is, when you've got elite sort of fighters who've made a hell of a lot of money out of the sport, having a 2-year ban, it's not really going to have that much of an impact because they can fall back on all the money they've earned over the years and come back.
Well, that's it. I mean, he's had massive pay-per-view fights still. I show he's a really wealthy guy. I mean, they hit him with like a £300,000 fine, and I was like, well, he just made $1.5 million for his last fight, so I can't that haven't stung him too bad. And it's like, for him to sit on the side for 2 years, that's not going to cost him a lot of money. Do you know?
He can just train, can't he, for the next 2 years now? Well,
that's it. For 2 years now, he just got better and stronger and faster, and now he's back in the mix. But fingers crossed that they'll be on him, flat out testing him every other day, or so they should. But in my opinion, he should. If you get pinged once for blood doping or evident obvious use of steroids, you should be gone.
Definitely, it's the same in boxing. I couldn't agree more. I think if you're injecting stuff into your legs. And that's cheating, isn't it? It's not like you're taking, like a nasal spray that's got something in it. It's completely different.
No, exactly. Yeah.
You put a post up. Obviously, you've mentioned it earlier. Fight news is coming soon. I won't push you for a name. Don't worry. Is there anybody though in the division that you're looking at that you think, I'd really like to fight him next, or you'll fight anyone?
I mean, I will fight anyone. There's that many good names now, even outside the top 15. I'll fight anyone, but there's a good few guys who've been fighting on the behind closed doors card recently that have had some big wins. People like Brian Kelleher had a big win last night. I mean, he's probably on the verge of top 15 now. There's a guy, American guy, Johnny Martinez, who's had 2 big knockout wins back to back. I actually offered him to fight on Fight Island, but I don't think he could. I don't know if there was enough time for him to get ready or whatever. But so they're like 2 good guys who I'd be happy to jump in with. But you just look like people like your Song Yadong, Chito Vera, Sean O'Malley is another big name. They are guys I'm sort of looking to progress to fight now in the next year. People who are maybe not top 15 yet, but are on the cusp. On the verge of they are fight away from getting it. So they're the type of people I'm eyeing up. I mean, I'm probably one maybe 2 fights away from being able to call for like a top 15, top 10 guy. So if I can get this fight sorted now by the end of the year, get one in early next year, and then obviously by this time next year I should be in a nice position to push for someone who's quite well known then.
Awesome, but I mean, obviously Dana White has said, you're one of the hottest prospects in the UK, and Bisping has said you look like the real deal. I mean, immense praise, but does it add any pressure? Do you feel the pressure of that praise, Jack, or are you just enjoying it?
Yeah, I mean, I try to just blank it out, to be honest, as humbling and as awesome as it is to hear people, well-known people like Dana and Bisping give you those compliments. If you let it go to your head, then it can obviously, you can slack a bit in training. But I got a good team around me and obviously my coaches, and they got no issues keeping me humble, with a grueling training session or, chucking a welterweight on top of me to make sure I remain grounded, So I do appreciate the praise, obviously, from the well-known names and the not so well-known names and the fans, but I just try and I take it in, but I try not to obviously let it consume me and let it build me some sort of ego. And I try to stay humble and keep myself grounded so I can keep pushing training, because I think as soon as you start to believe your own height, then that can sometimes come back to bite you. So I try to just say thanks, appreciate it, and move on.
Oh, look at that. Now I've got 2 fan questions here. My friend Johnny, who's an absolutely massive UFC fan. He's a big fan of you. He's been pestering me all week. I want to ask Jack a couple of questions. So he's given me 2 questions. You okay? They're not dodgy ones.
Of course. Yeah.
So he said, what do you think? Who do you think Jones will fight first in heavyweight? And how do you see him doing against Miocic?
It's a tough one, this is, because I think if he had jumped to heavyweight 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I think he would have no issues at all. He would have probably took them all out and took the belt and reigned as the heavyweight champion. But although he's only say 33, 34 Jones, he's been at the pinnacle since he was 23 years of age. He had 10 years at the top.
He's had his troubles as well, hasn't he?
Yeah. And his last 2 performances, he didn't look as sharp as he did all them years ago. And I mean, again, it could be a lot of things. It could be the fact that he thinks he's a lot better than the last two guys he fought. So did he take them all that seriously? You don't know. So maybe a jump up to heavyweight where you add in like the extra power and the extra weight. Perhaps that will, light the fire under him, and he'll think, I could seriously get beat you. So that tends to be when Jones is at his best, like the rematches, the fights with DC, stuff like that. I think his first fight, to be honest, I think he'll probably be Stipe. I can't see him not. He's that big a name. He is a big draw. I can't see him not putting him in straight in for the belt. But I think we'll have to wait for it, because I think obviously Francis Ngannou is next for the belt, I think, from what Dane is saying. So I can't see that they're going to leapfrog him over Francis. So I imagine they'll make Stipe fight Francis and then Jones fight Stipe. But I know Stipe wants to fight Jones because obviously it's a bigger money fight. So
yeah.
I think Stipe is a lot tougher fight for him than people think. I mean, Stipe is very crafty. Like, he's not known as a wrestler, but he can wrestle, and DC couldn't take him down. And his boxing is very, very good. He's got that power where he's one of those guys, I think he doesn't really have to connect with a big shot to have you on your heels. And as good as John Jones's chin is, he has taken a lot of shots in his last few fights. So he is getting it a lot more now than he has done in previous fights. And I just think at heavyweight, he won't be able to take that sort of risk. Someone like Stipe or Francis Ngannou catches him, it's going to be a lot different to someone like Dominic Reyes or Thiago Santos. So
that's his next question is do you think he moved up to heavyweight to sort of to dodge the rematch with Reyes? Do you think that's why he did it?
I personally see why people say, but I don't think he did. I don't think he's dodging Dom Reyes. I think, if we're honest, the last fight, I think Reyes did surprise him in the sense of I don't think Jones thought Reyes would be able to bring much to the table, and he did. So I think he did surprise him, but I feel like if they did rematch and Jones took it serious, I don't think he would have much trouble. And again, obviously, perhaps he's probably not motivated to fight him again. He could probably make, I don't know, 2 million fighting Reyes, or go up and fight Stipe and make probably closer to 10 million. So he's at that stage in his career now. He's a very wealthy man, I imagine, John Jones. He doesn't need the money. If he's going to fight, he's going to have to be, probably going to have to be exciting to him, probably going to have to get him out of bed in the mornings to train.
So more of a business decision then, rather than a dodging decision?
I think so, yeah. I think he's controlled that division now for 10 years, and I don't think he looks at any of them as serious threats. Whereas I think sort of when you've got the heavyweight, as you know, it takes one shot. You could be as good as you want. You're going to get clipped once, and it's game over. Especially if someone like Francis Ngannou, who's coming at you like an hurricane, swinging those bombs. He's only got a clip now. So I think it's more like you said. If he's going to put his career and his record on the line, I think he's going to want to do it for a lot more money. And he's going to make a lot more money fighting at heavyweight than he is fighting not unknown guys, but to casual people, casual fans, people like Reyes and Santos are not these big names. Whereas, especially now with the media, everyone knows who Francis Ngannou is. He's the big massive guy that's chinning everybody, and I think people know who Stipe is now. Your average sort of casual MMA fan will know who Stipe is. So you'll make a lot more money fighting them too. And like you said, he's coming to the end of his career now. I think he's looking for 2 or 3 big paydays, and he'll sail off with his money, and I think he's imagining the heavyweight title as well. So I think it's more, like you said, a business decision rather than dodging Reyes.
Awesome. Now, before I leave you go, Jack, I've got a 50-50 game here, so I'll give you 2 options, and you've got to pick which one you want to do, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I know the answer to the first one because I think I can hear him in the background. The first one's cat or dog?
Dog. You can't hear my dog's a little Shih Tzu, so he's downstairs playing Alex Pet, but his next door's Labrador is out in the garden. So. But I'm actually allergic to cats. My missus loves cats, and I don't think she'll ever let me live down the fact that she can't have one because I'm allergic. So I'm gonna have to go with dogs.
You a night owl or you an early bird?
Early bird.
Romantic night in with the missus or a night out with the boys?
Well, 5 years ago, it'd probably been a night out, but nowadays, I've just moved into an house, and I can't, unless it's for training, I can't ever be asked to leave. So I'll keep her happy, and let's go romantic night in. Are
you a film buff or are you more of a series type of guy?
A series at the minute, definitely. Last couple of years, series.
Do you prefer the stand-up sort of fighting or do you prefer groundwork?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm obviously more known as a grappler, but I've been probably, well, people don't know, I've been striking longer than I've been grappling. And I do tend to enjoy the striking aspects in training a lot more. And obviously I would rather watch, two good strikers fight, in, like a Stylebender and a Costa than watch two good grapplers. But on the flip side, nothing makes me happier than when a good grappler fights a good striker, and like a Khabib or McGregor, and nothing makes me happier than watching like Khabib, Molly's good strikers. So let's go. I'll go grappling. I'll go grappling because Parker and my old man won't let me live it down.
Diaz or McGregor?
What, to win the fight or just in general?
Who do you prefer?
Diaz, Nate Diaz.
AJ or Fury?
The Gypsy King.
Liam or Noel?
Liam, by a country mile.
What's the story, Morning Glory, or definitely maybe?
What's the story, Morning Glory?
Oh, wicked. Well, Jack, thanks for your time today. But I wish you the best of luck now, obviously, for your next fight, and we'll have to catch up again soon.
Yes, definitely. But thanks for having me on.
No worries.
And definitely do it again.
Cheers. Cheers, Jack.
See you soon.
Ciao.